All right, I'm back with part two about piecewise functions and writing rules from them. And so we're looking at number two here on this sheet. And I'm looking at this one. And the first thing I always like to think about when I'm doing these is, so this piecewise function, I want to think of two things. I want to think about what's the domain of this function. In other words, what x values does it cover? And so this one, I can see right now, covers from 0 all the way to 5. So there's 5 right there. So, the domain of this function is 0 to 5. So this is defined, everything from x is 0 all the way to 5. Now, how many parts or pieces are in a function like this? Well, the easy way to figure it out is just to count the different little individual lines. So like from 0 and including 0 to 1, there's the first function, or the first piece of the function. Then from 1 to 2, the domain of this next little piece is just from 1 to 2. That's the second part. Then from 2 to 3, by the way, when I say from 2 to 3, that means it's going from 2 to 3, and it's rising steeply during that time. That's the third chunk. Then from 3 to 4, from here to here, that's the fourth chunk. By the way, those are really easy. These two flat ones, these are the easy ones to write. I just want to remind you from my last video, those I can write really fast if I want. That's just, y is always 9. So the equation of this little part right here is just y, or f of x, equals 9. And then this flat one down here, I'm trying to save you time here. That one is just from, 1 to 2, but it's always at 5. So this little chunk right here is y is always 5. So some of these are super easy to write. Anyway, I got off track there, little rabbit trail. Let me erase some of that stuff I just did. Oh, I erased too much. Sorry, guys. Let me get rid of those lines. There we go. Let me get this back. So I had piece 1, piece 2, piece 3, piece 4. And then the last piece of this piecewise function is from 4 to 5. And it's dropping steeply. You probably know what that means. That's going to have a negative slope. That one's going to be a little tricky to find out where the y-intercept is. I can already tell you that. Like my graph, my picture only goes up to 12, but this one, you can tell it's going to go up here. I don't even know where that crosses the y-axis. It's way high up. So anyway, but that's the fifth piece. So when I write my piecewise function here, I'm going to actually have it in 5 parts. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. Okay, so I can just tell that right away, and I think it's good to talk about that and show you. Okay. Well, let's do a couple of the parts here together. Let me erase all this. All right. So here we go. So 2 of the parts are really easy. The second part, I already said, this one is always a flat line. It's just y equals, that's 5 right there. So this one right here is just y equals 5. So that's the same as f of x equals 5. So f of x equals, that's not the first one. We'll leave room for the first one, but then I'm going to write the second one. It's just 5. And that is from 1 to 2. And they're all filled in dots. So from 1 to 2, everything, every x in between 1 and 2 is 5. Y is 5. So that means less or greater than or equal to 1, less than or equal to 2. So we've already done this one right there. Now let's do the other one. Okay, so we got the first chunk was this one. The second chunk was that flat one right there. The third chunk, we got to leave some room over here then. And the fourth chunk, this is the one here where we can write that one really quick. So that one is y is always 9. So this one is y equals 9. That's the same as f of x equals 9. So we got to leave some room again for this one here. So we got to leave a space, but then we know it's 9. And that's in between 3 and 4. So from 3 to 4, y is always 9, or the function is always 9. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. All right, so we've still got to do the first one. We've got to do the third one. I'd like to have us look at the fourth one, okay? Because that one is the kind that, from this graph, we can't really see very easily, where this is going to cross the y-axis, because it's going to be going this way, but it's going to go really high up. So, but I can find out the slope. And the slope, so remember our equations, our linear equations are y equals the slope times x plus the y-intercept. And that's called y equals mx plus b form. Well, the slope right here, this is actually a negative number. And we can go between any 2 points on our graph. Well, we happen to know 2 points on the graph. We know this point right here, and we know this point right here. And so we need to think about the rise. Well, in this case, it's a drop. It's a dropping. As you go from left to right, it's actually dropping down. The graph is really steep. So let's, instead of a rise, it's a drop. How much does it drop? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It drops down 8. And it runs over 1 plus 1. So the slope here is negative 8 over 1, which is the same as negative 8. So far, our equation could be written as y equals the slope is negative 8x plus, we don't know what b is. We don't know what the y-intercept is, but we can figure it out. Because basically, as we go back this direction towards the y-axis, we know that every time we travel over 1, it's dropping 8. So we're kind of going backwards. So we know that to get from here, to go from here to the last point up here, as you go over 1, it's going to go back up 8. So we were at 9 here, and 9 plus 8 is 17. So basically what that means is we're going to be going, 8 up here. And then every time we travel over 1, we're going to go up another 8. So right here, let me erase some stuff here, just so we get rid of some of the clutter. So right here we are. But as we go back 1, we're going to go up 8. It's going to go way up 8. And then as we go back another one, we're going to go up another 8. So there's 8 there. It's going to go up another 8 there. It's going to go up another 8 every time, up another 8. So actually, from here, right here, if we go back 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, by the time we get back to the y-axis, it's going to have traveled, 32, because 8, 8, 8, and 8. So the way to think about that is right now, our y value is 9. There it is right there. It's at 9. But if we go up 32 from 9, we're going to go way up high. What's 9 and 32? It means that it's 41. It's going to cross the y-axis way up at 41. That's why we can tell, our graph picture only goes to 12, but it would have to go way up high to get where this steep line crossed the y-axis. So the b is 41. So let me put a 41 in there. So we can say f of x equals negative 8x plus 41. That is the final part of our piecewise function. And that's this part right here. Okay. And so that part goes from x is 4 to x is 5. And this is that big long equation. So it's f of x is negative 8x plus 41. And that, the domain of that is between 4 and 5. So from x is when x is less than or equal to 5 and x is greater than or equal to 4. Now, I didn't finish this whole problem yet. You still need to do, let me show you what parts. You still need to do this first part right here and this third part right here. Those would go here and here, but then you'd be done. So I think I've done enough probably to help you out. Maybe you know enough now to be dangerous, I don't know. But I just wanted to make these videos, as I said, to really help you learn to master piecewise functions.